Hey guys, in this video we've got more rust to fix on this Budget Build Nova. Now, the inner structures on this thing are rusted out pretty bad. They do not reproduce those, so I'm going to have to fab up some patch panels. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to try to make it perfect because at some point it's going to be somebody else's problem, and I'll let them know what I did here and tell them about the video. And also, I'll probably keep the car for a while, and I'll probably take the quarter panels off and fix everything properly then. But for now, we're getting this thing ready to drive to Daytona as fast and as cheap as possible. Okay guys, here's the plan. Now, I've got a rusted deck filler. Some of the package tray is rusted. I've got the tops of my quarters where the window ledge is rusted, and the inner structure is also rusted underneath that. Now, I've got a rusted taillight panel, pretty much gone up here. The bottom of it is way better. It's still junk, but it's not falling apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting all this cut out, figure out what panels or what patches I need to make, and then once I get all the stuff on the top out of the way, I can start patching from the bottom up, get all the patches made, welded in, get it to where it's halfway decent, and then this I'm going to have to completely make. I could order a taillight panel, but if I want the correct 6869 taillight panel, no one has them in stock that I can find right now. And you know what? I kind of want to just patch the one that's here to see if I can do it. It's pretty rough, but I'm pretty sure I can make something work that's good enough for this build. Once I get all of that patched in and, you know, welded up and good enough to go, I'm also going to clean the trunk up, and then we're going to rust coat everything and paint everything just to keep the bare metal from rusting. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit all this with a wire brush and see how much metal is actually left when I'm done. Hopefully plenty, but I'm not sure. Alright, that's pitted pretty bad. Some of it's fairly solid. Got a little rust hole right here by my trim rivet. Another one here. Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'll probably just cut all of this out and weld it in up here, so it'll be a little bit sturdier. It's going to be really tough to try to weld with all that pitting and stuff in there. It'll just blow holes in it. The bottom of it's pretty much gone all the way down, so I wasn't surprised about that. And then I'm going to order some trim rivets. I've got a stud gun that I can weld these in with, but the tip really isn't made to get down to something this close, so I'll probably order some of the ones that screw in and use those instead. Okay, I've cleaned this up a little bit more around here, hit it a little harder with a wire brush, went all the way up to about right here. Got a couple of small little pinholes up here, one right there, and if I hit that any harder, and if I hit over here where it's pitted worse, it's probably going to get worse. This down here looking pretty bad. I mean, there's a hole right there beside the trim rivet, and the bottom is completely shot, but a lot of this would probably work okay if I put some seam sealer or something around the holes and try to keep it from leaking, but since I've already got to weld in something for the bottom for the window to actually sit on, I'm just going to cut all the way up to this body line, or maybe in the middle of the top part right here, and see if I can bend something over to get it down there. I just want it to be easier to weld in than some of the floor parts were, because they were a pain. And then I'm going to have to worry about my inner structure also. So I'm going to get this part cut out in some form or fashion, and then I'm going to figure out the inner structure, what I'm going to do there, what I'm going to do right here around all this area, and then once I get that cut out and see what I'm going to do there, I'll start cutting the deck filler and all that stuff out and making patch panels. Okay, I cut this right here all the way across the front because it's welded right here and back across in the weather strip channel here. The middle of this deck filler was already rusted all the way across, so I cut the other side just like this. And what I'm hoping is once I get this light out of the way, that this whole panel will just peel up and kind of break off pretty easy. It looks like that's going to happen. Okay, so I got that. Had to cut the last few inches here. The rest of it just broke off really easy. I'm going to get this vacuumed out now and kind of look and see what we're dealing with as far as this panel is concerned. Okay, I got that vacuumed out. A lot of pitting here. I don't see any other holes through other than right here in the channel. You know, obviously that is. And you can see part of the old deck filler right here. There's spot welds going all the way across this. And most of this is going to just pop up, you know, fairly easy because it's rusted to almost nothing. A lot of it's already gone, and then some of it will be a pain to get up, like this right here. Will probably be I'll probably have to drill spot welds and stuff like that out. So I'm going to work on getting all this out. I'm going to cut this front piece of it. I'm going to cut it right across here because it is spot welded right along here. So I'll cut it probably right down this piece right here because it's easy to cut. Get that big piece right there out, and then I'll come in here and clean these spot welds up. Probably grind these out with a Ziz wheel just because that's easier than getting a spot weld cutter in there, and probably grind the rest of them out with a flat disc once I get the Ziz wheel cut across there and most of them cut out. And then I'll treat this with rust, patch that up, finish my two sides where I've got to patch everything up, and then I'll put the deck filler in the last thing. Okay, so this little bit of the deck filler that was on here is peeling up pretty easy. I think I can probably, let's see here. Okay, that's gonna make me look stupid. Anyway, that little section peeled up really easy. And I'm sure some of the other stuff will also peel up really easy, or it'll make me look stupid. There we go. A little bit of both. Okay, so I think I got this separated all the way across. Good enough. I cut to right here and then I cut across here because all these spot welds look like they're already loose. I cut all the way across on the other side. So we'll see if this piece is been. Alright, I made one more cut. And obviously not enough. All right. Okay, so here's where we're at. Now I got pretty much all of the deck filler out other than a couple little spot welds and stuff sticking around. So these old spot welds that are sitting right here, some of these ones down in the channel, a few of them down in here, and then whatever's left right here on top of the corner, which this is pretty rusted out right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to cut across here and all the way up here because I've got to redo this anyway, and I'll just make one big piece for this. I'm going to try anyway. Might have to make more than one piece to do that, and then I'll tie that piece into whatever I make for the top up here and the inner structure. Now this piece was rusted pretty bad. This is supposed to come down here, go across right beside this, and tie in here, and then it also has another little piece that comes over and lays under here. All that kind of ties in together. So I've got quite a bit of fabricating to do there, and pretty much the same thing on the other side. You can see over there it's in a little bit better shape. It's got this piece right here. So at least I know what this is supposed to look like. I know this is supposed to come up and go under here, but I've got a little bit left of this to get out, but not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up. I'm going to grind all my little welds out. Then I'm going to come in here and hit all this with a wire brush the best I can. And then I'm going to see about patching the big rust sections, like rust hole here and all that. And once I hit it with a wire brush, there'll probably be more rust holes going through. Once I get that done, then I'm going to work on my channels on the quarter panel and on the inner structure on both sides. And then once all that's done and my quarter panels and stuff are patched in this area, then I can put the deck filler back in because it's the last thing to go in. Okay, so I hit this little area, this little corner with the wire brush on the drill, and it cleaned it up a lot, but it also left a lot of holes. That whole thing is rusted pretty much all the way across. Way worse than it looked like at first, but I had a feeling that was going to happen when I hit it with the brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bend a long piece of channel, and that thing's not exactly straight, it's got a little curve to it. So I'll bend 2 or 3 pieces of sheet metal into just a right angle, and I'm going to lay it in here. I'll build it with a soft angle so it doesn't sit down in there hard, and I'm going to weld it over top of that, clean it up really good, and that way my deck filler can sit on top of it, and this area right here will be sealed up from the trunk into the cab. Now if I ever restore this car properly, I'll just replace this panel. Same thing with the quarter panels, the way I'm going to patch those, and the roof skin. Really, you know, I'm not trying to do this properly, I'm trying to get it done. So we're going to keep getting it done. Okay, so I cut this piece right here out that goes up and goes under here. This piece behind it right here is pretty rusty, so I'm going to make a small piece to go in there. I'm going to tie that into whatever I do here. It's also going to have a piece that comes up from here. I'm going to redo part of this piece and go up into that. So it's all going to tie together, but first I got to get all this stuff out. And the challenge about doing this stuff the way I'm doing it without changing the quarter panel is that this would be much easier to repair all of this and fabricate stuff without the quarter panel in the way. And the quarter panel really needs to be replaced, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So I'm going to replace this the best I can for now. And then, like I said, if I do a full restoration on this later, I'll cut all this out and fabricate new stuff, or cut something out of a donor so that it's a lot better than what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I've got that area right there, and this piece, I don't know if you can see good. Okay, this piece normally comes up and as part of this inner structure, it goes by. Then this has a piece that comes over. It all ties in right here with the quarter and everything else. So what I did was I made this piece real quick, which is kind of crude, but it'll work fine. And I marked where it's going to sit. It's going to sit right in there. So I'm going to weld it in, and it's going to replace the piece that's rusted out that I cut out. So I still got a little bit more of this. I traced around where it's going to go because there's still a pretty good bit of rust in there, and there is some still over here, but I can't really get in there to cut that out where I need to be. So I'm just going to doctor that up real good once I get this other piece in that's doing most of the work there. Okay, so once I hit this area right here with the wire brush, it's a much bigger hole than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to cut that out real quick, make another patch for it, weld it in, and then I'll weld my new piece right here. Okay guys, working on my patch panels here. I've got the inner structure piece that was rotted away. I've got most of that made. You can kind of see it right here. I've still got to fill this hole in. That's what this piece is for. And the reason I'm doing it in 2 pieces is because this piece was hard enough to make without this added to it. So what I'm going to do is I've got this clamped in place. I'm going to put this down there, weld it to this piece, tack it in a couple of spots, finish weld it out here, clean it up, and then put it all in, and then I can weld it all together at once. Once I get this piece in, I'm going to move on to my package tray and get this edge of the package tray patched up and this part of the quarter panel patched up. I get all that done, then I'm moving over here where I've actually already started, and I've got my lip that's part of this inner structure that's going to tie into this lip. I've got this piece here that I use my shrinker and my stretcher to get the right contour this way and this way. So it's going to go right here. I'm going to trim this big edge right here off to where it's a little over 1/8 of an inch on this side, and that's just going to, I'm going to weld that to right here and tack it in and clean it up, make it look pretty. And then I'll come in and do my quarter panel flange that's pretty much the opposite, going that direction. I'll make another piece for you. Okay guys, what I've done here is I've cut out pretty much all the real bad rot. There's still a little bit in there, but it's not a bunch, and it's something I should be able to put some rust converter on and kind of stop it. It's pitted, not really any rust throughs. Now, there's several things going on here, all tie in together. It's pretty much the structure of this area. So while I could have just put a quarter panel on here, or just did the quarter panel lip, and that would have held the glass in, and you know, with the deck filler piece, that would have been sufficient. Really, there wouldn't have been any strength back here. And I mean, it's not like I'm going racing or road racing or whatever, but there's a lot going on back here, so I wanted to get it fairly close, and also wanted to test myself on making these panels. Now, what I did was I cut out the quarter panel lip, and then below that, the lip that's on the inner quarter panel was also rusted real bad. So I cut that off, and then where my package tray, deck filler, and quarter panel all go together, all of that was pretty much rotted out too. This whole area is pretty rotted, and this was down into here. So what I did was I made 6 pieces by hand. I did use a brake and a shrinker and a stretcher, but the complicated pieces I actually made with a vise and a hammer. This piece completes, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it completes this inner structure right here. There's another piece that's got to go down in there. I can't weld them in together, so I got to do it separately. This piece is going to weld in, and I don't know what you guys can see or not on camera. That piece is going to weld in there. This piece goes on top of this piece somewhere, and we'll weld in the corner. It goes there, and that'll weld in the quarter. Then I have another piece here that completes the package tray that was rusted out. It goes up and ties in to this piece. And in this piece, it looks like a mangled piece of sheet metal that's been run over. That actually ties into the package tray here and goes up and sits on the lip that the windshield also sits on, and your deck filler goes on top of that. So I'm going to start getting all of this welded in. Hopefully it's going to turn out looking okay. Some of it's going to be a pain to get to. Some of it I'm not going to be able to grind the welds, so I'm going to have to be real careful not to build a bunch of weld and make it look like boogers. Let's get to work. Okay, so this is what I'm dealing with. Big hole in there, all of that. This piece all cut out, and my pile of pieces that I've made. So I'm going to start fitting those in, see if I can get everything kind of close, and then I'm going to start welding. Okay, so I went ahead and tacked this piece at both ends, so it's tacked in there right now. And I want to take my other piece and make sure I can get this fit in there while that is also in there, because this is going to be a butt weld up against the top. And it's going to be a kind of a tight fit. And I may have to do some trimming on both of them to get it a little better, but yeah, I'll probably trim it a little bit. But okay, so I've got this side pretty much finished up. I got a couple little pinholes here and there that I got to clean up, fill in, and then grind back down, but nothing major. I've got all this reconstructed. It's back like it should be, in where it should be. I've still got to tack this one to here. I've got to weld this to the same piece that's underneath it, the piece that goes to the inner structure, but I've got a spot welder I'm going to do that with. Okay, so I've got this side pretty much finished up. I've got a couple of pinholes in there, a couple places to grind down a little bit, but it's really, really close. What I haven't done, I haven't spot welded this piece to the piece I put on the inner structure underneath, or to this piece right here. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to use this. that one clamped hard enough. Okay, so I got my spot welds in. That thing worked pretty good. Alright, so that side is done. I've got my deck filler completely off this thing and all the grounds, all the spot welds ground down. I've got from here over obviously treated for rust proofing and rust conversion. Now I still need to do something with this right here, and I've still got to fix this side just like I did this side. And this side's in a little bit worse shape. The inner structure here, so this part and this part are in better shape, but the package tray where the deck filler sits on the end here is completely gone, where the other side had a little bit of it there. So I'm going to cut some of that out, fab that up, fab up my two pieces for the bottom of the inner structure here and the top here, and then part of my quarter panel here, which I still have to do on the other side. I'm going to put my pieces in here, lay it over that, and yeah. Now I also found, I had this laying around, I forgot about it, and I was looking through my pile, and it was actually outside with some other stuff because it was such a small piece that I wasn't going to use it. This runs about $100, so I'll take that out of the budget. It's a brand new piece, but it's been laying outside, had leaves and stuff on it, so it's got some surface rust, and that is all. So I'm going to cut this out, because what I did was when I was standing in the back of here working on that, I stepped through the trunk a little bit, so oops. And it needed to be patched anyway. I just didn't want to have to buy anything else. I already had this one, so I didn't have to go find it, didn't have to go pick one up or order it. I had it here, but if you buy a new one from either Goodmark or AMD or whoever you buy it from, they're about $95. So that's what I'm going to deduct from my budget. Okay, so here's where we are budget wise. So started with $5,000. I spent $1,752 on all of this stuff, and then the other 600 something dollars on this stuff. Then I went and bought a deck filler, floor pan patches, transmission lines, and a shackle. I only got one shackle. I thought I was getting two. One of them was back ordered. I didn't pay for it, and it didn't ship, so I have to add the other shackle to this, but it should be here in a couple of days. Now I just spent, so that after this added to this other, that left me with $2,856.75 minus the $95 for the trunk pan that I just deducted. I've got $2,761.75 left. So I've still got to do an engine, windshield, wiring, radiator, tires. Man, this is looking bad. Okay, we're pretty much 2 weeks into this thing, and I have got not near enough done to it, but I'm still trucking along, going to make it happen. So the window channel on this side and the inner structure, all that's fixed and welded up. It's not pretty, but it's not terrible either. Everything's where it's supposed to be. It's all structurally really sound, and I treated all the rust I could get to. Now ideally what you would do is you'd have this quarter panel out of the way, and you would fix all that a lot better than I did, and you'd actually be able to get back to some of the welds and grind them down and make everything look like it had always been there. But I couldn't get to those, grind it down. I guess I could put a long bit on a die grinder and get down in there and act like I'm porting some heads, but that's not what I'm going to do with this car. So anyway, I got this side done. I've still got to do the deck filler. I've still got to patch the package tray a little bit, and then I've got to fix the other side like I did this side. I've got my trunk floor patch now, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the taillight panel. All of that should be in the next video, hopefully along with the dash. And then I've got some more parts to go pick up now, so we're moving along. By next week, depending on when you're seeing this, by next week I'm going to be doing mechanic work on this car. Brakes, suspension, front end rebuild, transmission rebuild. Hopefully I have an engine by then, and we're going to be moving really fast once I get all this stupid rust fixed. And I know this car seems like, you know, at first it seemed like $400 was really cheap for this car, but the amount of rust I'm having to deal with and where it's at with parts that they do not reproduce, like the inner structure, that's why it was $400. So, you know, it makes sense. Some of that stuff, the only way, and really the only way to fix it properly is to have the quarter panels off, which they make quarter panels, but I didn't want to put quarter panels on this. That's kind of out of the scope of a budget build when you're just trying to patch it good enough to get it get it road trip worthy and have fun and it not be a complete rust bucket. I don't want the glass to fall out of it. That is a little bit structural in the back. So it's definitely stronger now, and it's mostly, it's not rust free. It's not even close. It's rust less. It's less rust. It's a little bit less rust. It's not great. The glass is going to stay in it probably. The trunk lid, it's going to be okay. I'll probably be able to patch the trunk floor. 80% of what's bad on that will get replaced with that one trunk patch. The only thing I'm worried about is the gas tank support straps. So I'm going to cut all of the trunk area, 3 sections out, leave the straps on there, and then I'll clean what's left of the trunk off of those, mark my trunk pan patch, weld all that down, trim the edges up, do that in some sort of fashion, and we'll patch the trunk. Then once we get that done, we can start doing brake lines, fuel tank, and suspension. So see you next video.